Hi, so it is June 2022, and it is the 3-year anniversary since I started this channel. So I wanted to celebrate a little bit and then also share with you the 3 reasons I started this channel. And even for those of you who've been watching my videos and know me fairly well, I do think my third reason is going to surprise you quite a bit. So stay tuned for that. And then for those of you who are new to my channel, I'll give you a little bit of my background and how I ended up where I am now. So to jump into why I started this channel, I do have to give a little bit of background about myself. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. I call the channel Awaken Joy because I bring information and practical tools and tips and exercises and things people can do to bring more joy into their lives. So my first career was actually on Wall Street during the 1980s and into the 90s, a crazy time on Wall Street. But I was a finance professional in mergers and acquisitions. And I knew it wasn't my soul's calling. I really did. And I did not know what else I might do. So I really spent years soul searching to figure out what I wanted to do with my career, how I wanted to live my life. And that process, that was a long process. I probably spent a good 7 years doing a deep dive into who am I? Why am I on this planet? What am I here for? What makes me happy? What doesn't make me happy? And I knew that part of my purpose was helping other people. So eventually I quit Wall Street. I went back to school at the age of 38 to get a second master's degree. My first is an MBA in finance, and I got a master's in social work, which is one of the degrees you can take to become a psychotherapist. And then you come out and you get training. So I went through the whole process. I had a private psychotherapy practice in Norwalk, Connecticut for almost 20 years. I primarily worked with anxiety and trauma, and I loved my work. I truly did. I loved my work. People can make such amazing progress with anxiety, and then people recovering from trauma are so resilient and could be so inspiring. Now, another thing I began doing along this process, actually, I began this when I was still working on Wall Street, I began to meditate in 1991. And I remember the date because my oldest daughter was 6 months old. I had a 6-month-old baby. And I talk about this a little bit in one of my videos that I will link right here. But trying to handle the stress of a Wall Street job, a new child, difficulties in relationships, I really knew I needed something. And I began the journey of meditation. Eventually it brought me deeper and deeper into Buddhist philosophy. And this was an incredibly healing part of my journey. So I still meditate to this day. It's integral to myself. I became certified to be a mindfulness meditation teacher. So I weave all of that together to help people live more joyful lives. All right, so let me come back to why I started this channel. So after, 17 years of being a psychotherapist, I began to think I would like to go online so that I could help even more people. So that was the number one reason that I started this channel, is that as a one-to-one therapist, really having more than about 20 clients at a time is very challenging. So the number of people that you can help is limited, even though each person you help then helps others in their lives. And there definitely is work that's meaningful, worthwhile, and has ripple effects. But I really felt that I wanted to try to help people around the world. And as I've learned from doing this channel, there are so many people watching this channel from countries other than the US where they simply don't have the access to the information. And there's even some parts of the US where this information is not widely known or discussed, right? So that goal to help more people around the world has been achieved. And I really want to pause here right for a moment and just thank those of you who subscribe to my channel, who follow my videos, who let me know how meaningful they are and how they're changing your lives. I truly appreciate that because that motivates me to keep going, to keep putting out content, and to keep reaching out with the knowledge, wisdom, whatever you want to call it, that I've accumulated over the last bunch of decades. And another piece of this reaching out is that I noticed that when I would watch other videos on these types of topics, they very often were informative, but didn't always have practical tools that people could start working with and incorporate right away. So I really wanted to bring that into my work. All right, so that was reason number one. Reason number two is I wanted more geographic flexibility. This was prior to the pandemic, okay? So most psychotherapy happened one on one in an office. I did have a couple of clients who moved too far away from me to keep like commuting for therapy. So I had experienced working with people online. But for most of the work, I had to be there in person. I was approaching my 60s and I really wanted to be able to travel more, have some geographic freedom. And that part of my vision is beginning to come into play. But of course, within 7 months of my starting this channel, the pandemic hit and then everything went online, but whoops, you can't travel. So we're working on that piece. But that was the second reason I started this channel, was to have more geographic freedom, somewhat of a selfish desire, but also I'm at that point in my life where I really felt kind of like, ooh, now or never. I love to travel. I also love my work. And I was seeing how the internet would allow me to do both. So the third reason, which you might find surprising, but is really core to my philosophy, is that I really saw the limits of psychotherapy as a means of change for people. Now, believe me, as I said, I loved my work. My clients did make major progress almost all the time. But I also felt like something was missing, because to truly live a joyful life with peace and equanimity, I think spirituality comes into that. Whatever your spirituality is, even if it's very sort of vague, it doesn't have to be a religion, but just more a spiritual sense of what's the bigger picture here? A bigger sense of, in some ways, it's not all about me, or it's not all about my small circle, right? What's the bigger picture for you? And that's a little hard to bring into therapy. So that was one piece. There's actually a handful of pieces of why I was really seeing the limitations of therapy. So that was a piece, the spirituality. The second is the focus on action. Now, coaching focuses on action a bit more than therapy. Some therapists are very action oriented, but as a therapist, your job is really to support the client where they are. And as a therapist, you really can't cross into that line of being like the authority figure, or it's not going to work. Or you can't cross into the line of like being the parent, right? Like, oh, well, you said you were going to exercise 3 times this week and you didn't. You can't do that. You can't, it just doesn't work within the therapy environment, right? So you can encourage people, you can discuss what changes they want to make, but it's not always action oriented. And I tend to be very solution focused and action oriented. And then additionally, psychotherapy can sometimes lack an integration of some of these other tools like mindfulness meditation. Now that's changing. More and more therapists are bringing meditation into the therapy room, but I didn't want to charge clients my rate, which was high, to teach meditation, which they could learn at a center, right? So I'd encourage them to go, but it seemed that they wouldn't always do that. So I really feel that the basis of this YouTube channel, which integrates mindfulness meditation, some coaching tools, a focus on action, definitely understanding from psychotherapy, CBT, EMDR, powerful therapeutic recovery methods. And then on top of that, some Buddhist philosophy, which I in no way impose as a religion at all, right? Like there's not at all. It's just much more of a way of looking at the world that I have found incredibly important. So my emphasis is really on all of those things. And it's kind of interesting because one video that took off for me was my CBT exercises video. So that's kind of how people see me. So they like, woof, they think that I am like raw, gung-ho CBT. And CBT can be helpful, but I don't know that it's the most effective therapy technique, right? And I also think an integrative approach is really what's going to get people to transform. So I developed an online course, a 6-month program. It's more than just a course. It's not just informative, it's action oriented, and you're prompted so that you keep moving through the 6 months. And you can certainly check that course out, but that really integrates all of these different areas and all of what I have seen to create major transformation in my own life and major transformation in my clients' lives. And I get the question a lot about how can people work with me, and I am no longer doing one-to-one psychotherapy. I have a very small number of one-to-one coaching clients, very small. You can find that on my website. The link for that will be in the description to this video. But I don't any longer do therapy for trauma or anxiety. But the main way to work with me is either through this course or to stay in touch for future courses that I will be offering. And I do now have a couple of free resources. If you haven't taken advantage of them, I have a downloadable PDF on transforming your negative core belief. I have a free webinar on rewiring your brain for joy and confidence. And I'm super glad you're here, and I really hope you find this channel helpful. Let me know what you think of the reasons that I started this channel. And I'm hoping you will join the community if you're not already part of it. Subscribe to the channel, download something so you get on my email list. I'll keep you informed of various offerings, and I hope you have a wonderful day.